I'm Lexi. I'm in the US. One of the things that might be most traditional around the UK at Christmas is mince pies. But as normal and traditional and everyday they might be there, you would be hard pressed to find an American that's ever tasted a mincemeat pie. If you say mincemeat pie to an American, they're probably going to go ew and think it has meat in it. So let's get this one out of the way first. Modern mince pies have no meat in them. Mince pies actually date back to medieval times, and at that point they did have meat in them. It was a way to preserve the meat with all the sugar and the alcohol that was added. It had preservative qualities. But modern mince pies are just apple, dried fruit, spices. I've never tried one, but that's what we're going to do today. But in addition to just trying some store-bought mince pies, I actually made my own mincemeat. So let's jump back for a minute to past Lexi and see how that was done. Okay, so I'm doing a derivative of a Mary Berry recipe here. I say derivative because there's a few things in the recipe that are hard, if not impossible, to get here. So I've kind of altered things. I also altered it in the sense that, well, by now you should all be aware I don't like raisins. And I didn't want to sabotage this based on that. So I'm going to replace the raisins with dried cherries. But the first thing that you need to do is peel and chop an apple. I'm going to set this peel aside, and since I'm filming this in the past, you'll have seen what I did with that back in our Food Not Waste video. I'll link that down below. But you want to give this, it's kind of a not so great spot, isn't it? We'll be cutting that bit out. But you want to give this a pretty small dice, something that's going to match up with the dried fruit that you're adding. We've got a bit of grace in the size of the dice because the cherries are so much bigger than the raisins. But also, you want to think about the fact that, in general, when you make mince pies, these are mini pies, like little tart size, individual size. So you want a bunch of bits of different flavor to fit in. So you want the pieces to be pretty small so that you don't have this tart that all it contains is like 4 pieces of apple. I'm exaggerating slightly, but you get my point. That looks pretty good. We're going to push this aside for a second and handle the butter before I get too much in the way on my cutting board. I know that suet would be more traditional, but if butter is good enough for Mary Berry, it's good enough for me. So here I've got 1 stick of butter, which is 125 grams. And we're just going to cut that into rough cubes. Okay. Then all of this is going to go in a pot. Pot. Okay. Then we're going to add the juice and zest of 1 lemon. Yeah, I'm aware this lemon has seen better days, but it's what I've got, so we're gonna go with it. Should have zested this first. If you do any citrus zesting, you want one of these. This is a microplane, and this is by far the easiest thing to zest citrus with. I know I usually do this ahead of time, but I figured, see how nice and small that is? I figured we'd go ahead and do it on camera today. And I will speed the shot up if it seems to be taking too much time. Juice and no seeds. I don't know why, but sometimes I find it easier to zest upside down like this. I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. I thought I dropped a seed, but it got stuck on my finger. Okay, you want to get all that out of the microplane. And then we'll juice this side. For being an older lemon, I still got kind of a lot of juice out of this. So I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm not going to supplement with any bottled juice. Give me a second to rinse my hands off. I'm a little sticky, and then we'll continue. Okay, so now we need all the dried fruit. First, we've got 175 grams of sultanas, which in America we just call golden raisins. I do actually like golden raisins. I know, I'm weird. I don't know, I can't tell you any better than that. 175 grams totals out to be approximately a cup and a half if you're going to measure it, if you don't have a scale at home. Then you want the same amount, 175 grams, which this one's about a cup and a quarter, of dried cranberries, and 175 grams, which is also about a cup and a half, of dried cherries. Or you could go with standard raisins if you just want to go with the more traditional. How did I not bring a spoon? Spoon. We're going to give this a little mix. You may find yourself wanting to use a slightly larger pot than I did. Other than my giant soup pot, this is what I had. Although, this may have to go in the giant soup pot. Okay, so then you want 50 grams, which is about a third of a cup, of blanched chopped almonds. I cheated and bought the slivered ones instead of chopping them myself. And then we need 225 grams or 1 cup of muscovado or brown sugar. Now, muscovado sugar isn't really found much in the US. Brown sugar isn't exactly the same thing, but it's a close enough substitute. One of the other things that you can't really get in the US is mixed peel. I just happened to have a bunch of candied grapefruit peel in my fridge from when I made it. It's been a while now. So James said that I could sufficiently use that as a substitute. My pieces are pretty big here because I was going for like a candy pieces vibe and had dipped some of these in chocolate. So I'm going to give this a little bit of a rough chop. And you know what? I didn't measure this. I only took the weight. So let's see what it looks like once I get it chopped up. Does that look like about a cup maybe? Looks like about a cup for me. So this is going to go in. There's probably still some bigger chunks, but this is what we have, so this is what we're going to go with. And then the last thing that is also pretty hard to find in the US is mixed spice. But all mixed spice is allspice, cinnamon, cloves, mace, coriander, and ginger mixed together in even amounts. So I just mix some up myself. That's going to go in there. Looking at this, I am going to go ahead and transfer that to my big soup pot. And then you're going to put this on the stove and melt the butter. And then you're going to want to simmer this for about 10 minutes with stirring occasionally because you don't want any of this to burn on the bottom. I will see you back here in a minute after I finish that. So here we have the cooked product. You got some juice out of the apple, but there's not a lot of liquid in this, so you have to keep stirring it so it doesn't burn. And there's not really a ton of simmering going on. Like, you don't have submerged fruit at any point. But just keep stirring it and keep your heat fairly low and you'll be okay. So you want to let this cool down before you add in the final ingredient, which is 200 milliliters or 1 cup of brandy. But once this cools down, add the alcohol, stick it in a jar, and put it in your fridge for a couple of weeks. And you'll be ready to make pies or however else this is eaten at Christmas. But I'm going to hand this back over to future me, where this has already sat for a while, and we'll be ready to taste it. Mincemeat needs to sit in your fridge for several weeks for the flavors to develop properly. So, as past me said, this was made a few weeks ago. This has actually been in my fridge a few weeks longer than I wanted it to be because I couldn't get a hold of the regular mince pies. I don't know, I thought I'd be able to get them pretty early in the season, but they don't seem to sell them off season, even on Amazon. So I was stuck with waiting until I could get them. But let's give this a try. It doesn't smell like alcohol anymore. It's packed in here pretty tight. It's kind of pasty, which is interesting. I guess all the sugar has kind of gummed up. Okay. I'm not directly sure how to describe that. It's got some chew to it, but it's not chewy like a gummy bear. You also don't really have any crunch, which I sort of expected a little bit of crunch from the almonds. This might be because I just used grapefruit peel instead of mixed peel, but I can really taste the grapefruit in it. Although at first it came across as orange, which was just odd. I think I need another bite. I can sort of taste the flavor of the alcohol, but not like a punch from it. There's a real depth of flavor. It's not something that I would call holiday. Mostly probably because it's just not something we eat here. But you eat something for a particular holiday, and that's the flavor that you're going to associate with it. So holiday flavors for me are like pumpkin and peppermint. But if mince pie or mincemeat is what you're used to eating, yeah, I could get that. And there is a warmth to it, so I can see how it would be enjoyed in the winter. Do I like it? I don't dislike it. It would take some to get it to grow on me. I think it would be better if I could actually have gotten real mixed peel, or at least if I was using a combination of grapefruit and I think at least lemon would have really helped. Should I rate it? I think right now I'm going to give it a 5. I don't know if I'd make it again because it's not something I associate with the holidays. But I could probably train myself into associating it with the holidays and enjoying it for such. So yeah, I'm going to give the mincemeat that I made a 5. Now, I know that mince pies, every store makes their own, and probably every single person across the UK has their own opinion of which one is their favorite. I know one of the import sites that I use sometimes, I could have gotten Sainsbury's mince pies, but the way it was worded as far as shipping, it was real dicey on whether they were going to actually get here in time for me to film this video. So I went ahead and got 2 different flavors of Walker's mince pies from World Market, where we did that trip and haul a few months ago. I'll link that one down below. That was fun. I figure we start with the more traditional ones. Now these still say luxury. They also had some like mini ones. I bought these, honestly, the pack of 9 mini ones versus the pack of 6 larger ones were the same price, but this one, I don't remember the gram weight off the top of my head, but this one was more, so I felt like I was getting a better deal. I've had some Walker's products before, but never the mince pies. They've got these cute little snowflakes on top. Those are really adorable. There we go. Now where do I put this? How did I ever do this without a table? Okay, that's better. It's in this little metal tray, so if you want to heat it up in the oven, you can. Do you usually eat these warm or room temperature? I know there was heating instructions on the package, but I don't have a microwave out here, so I'm just going to go room temperature. I know somebody will probably say something in the comments that I needed to warm them up. Smells like Walker's shortbread. Makes sense. Doesn't taste quite like Walker's shortbread. It's very buttery. The crust is very buttery, but it does taste more like pie crust than their shortbread cookies, which I would expect. The fruit inside is juicy, but I didn't get a ton of it in that bite. Let's see if you can take a look in there. I think I like this flavor better than the mincemeat I made, which surprises me since this one has actual raisins in it. But it's juicier and brighter and less grapefruit forward. And I know that's my fault, but like I said before, I was working with what I had. I do think I like this flavor better. I definitely like the texture better. There's almost a creaminess to the fruit, but if you bite into a raisin or something, there's a real burst of, I don't want to say juice because it's not juice, but there's a burst of It still doesn't scream holiday to me, but it could. I think I'll give those a 6. But again, they could grow on me. I went ahead and got this one, the spiced orange and cranberry mince pies, mostly so I'd have a non-raisin example. But I'm not usually a giant fan of orange either, so I'm not sure how good that's going to be. There's only 4 in this package, and these have more of a crumble topping as opposed to the snowflake. I like the look of the snowflake better. In addition to there only being 4 in this package, I think they might be a little smaller too. No, they're the same size. Get this out of the tin. It broke all over me. Well, the edge broke all over me. These, do mince pies often stick in the tins? Okay. Definitely harder to get out of the tin. And I kind of broke the bottom a little bit when I did it, but it should still taste the same. This tastes more like the one I made. This surprises me greatly, but I like the one with raisins better. The crust is really good on all of them. This one's not as creamy. And you can actually see, I was going to say that's orange zest, but I think that's an almond. Yeah, that was an almond. Yeah, I like the texture of the regular ones better too. One more bite. Okay, for several reasons, including difficulty in getting it out of the tin, I am going to give the cranberry orange ones a 5, just like the mincemeat that I made. I know that you can get other flavors of mince pies. What's out there? What's your favorite flavor of mince pie? Where does it come from? Maybe next year I'll be able to try another brand. Something that's more traditional to you guys. Because I know Walker's is a big brand in the UK, but every time I've seen people talking about mince pies, it's like one of the grocery store brands. It's never a Walker's. Do you guys get Walker's mince pies? Or do they just kind of get overlooked in favor of like the various grocery store brands? Or, I don't know, do the coffee shops do them? I'd imagine that coffee shops would make mince pies. What can you tell me about mince pies in the UK that we haven't already covered here today? Or is what I've said completely left of center and off base? Let's have a conversation. Let me know down below. But I just wanted to wish everybody out there a happy holiday season, whatever holiday that may be. And if you could give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already, I'd really appreciate it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.